Hey y'all, Red Foz here. Today, I'm gonna teach you how to FC on Arabia at 2K3.
This has made Phosphorus, who already needed a nerf, whoop! It's made him so freaking strong.
Oh, he's cooking. He's cooking with the Bengalis.
Phosphorus is doing something very different. He's really just experimenting with the game and trying to find interesting things.
Blue has skyrocketed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
It's a good feature in the hands of the wrong person, basically.
So, what is a fast castle and why is it busted? Well, you hurt your own economy to reach castle age well before your opponent. In this age, you have tech advantage. Think an organ gun versus feudal scouts. And with this tech advantage, you end the game before they can use their larger economy to answer your units. Sadly, fast castles don't work on Arabia. All the pros agree.
FC is good in Arabia? No, not really.
To sum it up, they'd say it doesn't work for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, you can't get your castle up, let alone produce out of it. The feudal age builds are so aggressive and so tight, you'll get whomped and it will simply be fast castle into GG. Reason number 2, if you did get the castle up and producing, your high-tech army still won't be able to match the feudal age army with 3 times the eco behind it. And reason number 3, if you do manage to fight evenly with a feudal age army, you still lose. He has triple the eco, and in a few minutes, when he reaches castle age, your tech advantage will disappear. Now, if you finish this video, you'll understand how these 3 problems are overcome. In fact, a lot of my opponents don't think feudal age play is any good against me.
We're completely dead. It's impossible to actually deny castle age, so you just go castle age.
So, let's dive right into problem number 1. How to not fast castle into GG, i.e. how to play dark and feudal age. I'll let the build order play in the background while I talk about big picture stuff. What are we trying to achieve with this fast castle? Well, that's simple. A castle age time of 1430 or less, 650 stone, 20 plus vills, and enough res in the bank to build a couple units out of the castle. How do we do that? Especially when folks are laming us or picking Mongols and going 18 pop man-at-arms into archers.
Tenemos el cierre por acá también. 3 milicias adelante de parte del Viri. Y se viene Galería de Trío en arco con hombre de arma. Minuto 9. Minuto 9.
Well, you need to understand that there is safe res and map res. Safe res are resources you can still take even if your opponent has total control of your base. Think straggler trees, sheep, the stone under your tower. Map res is everything else. So, we want to play our Dark Age in a way to extract as much map res as we can before being pushed off it. That's why I send 6 to berries and 6 to stone in Dark Age. Even if I'm kicked off those resources in early feudal, I'll have extracted enough to secure my castle.
He still gets the castle up, dude. This guy. Ah, man. He's just so good at doing this. Like, literally he has nothing, but he still is gonna get the castle up, and he's gonna make Ratha, and he's gonna just kill me. Yeah, alright.
Your base should be small walled like this, or this, or this, and camps placed like this, or this, or this. Your wood res walled like this, and your stone res walled like this. Everyone got it? Okay, we're done with Dark Age. Let's dive into early feudal. This is where a lot of you will lose the game. I don't have time to talk about all the possibilities of feudal aggression, so pause the screen here if you need to. But what you need to understand is that stone is really expensive to buy, especially when you don't have access to gold. You can turn like 300 wood or food into 100 stone, and that is a terrible trade when you have no economy. So how do we not take these bad trades? Well, first, we secure the stone. Against all man-at-arms and archer openings, I place a tower on my stone. That allows me to even sell my stone for food if I've taken a lot of damage, and then overload it to ensure 650 stone the moment I'm in Castle Age. Second, I vil fight a lot. I don't let my opponents push me off resources unless they invest into a lot of scouts, delaying their uptime. If I lose 2 vils on the berries fighting scouts, I send 2 more vils. And third, sometimes we don't sell 100 wood and 100 stone to click up. If we've taken a huge hit in feudal and have lost access to our stone, we instead sell 300 wood or food. That way we delay our click time, but ensure we have 650 stone. Speaking of that stone, here's how you place your castle 90% of the time. There's a ton of other really nuanced things about Feudal Age, but for the purposes of this brief instructional video, you now know how to play Feudal Age. On to problem number 2, how to beat your opponent's Feudal Age army and deal a lot of damage to its eco. Sadly, I have to stop giving you advice that will work for any civ. You will beat a Feudal Age army with Woad Raiders in a very different fashion than you will with Hussite wagons. Here's my tier list for fast castle unique units on Arabia. You'll see there are some pretty fun unique units that you get to play with, like Arambai and Woad Raiders. But for this video, I'll teach you the most powerful fast castle, even though it's not my favorite. That being fast castle organ guns. This unit is so busted. There's not much to say when it comes to beating Feudal Age armies. Maybe don't string out versus scouts. That's it. But how do we deal eco damage? Well, if they're open, we just do a loop around the TC, walking wood lines, walking gold, walking berries, leaving sentries behind to deny farms and camps. Don't be afraid to take a little TC fire as long as they don't have fletching. If they're walled, you break a palisade, denying the rewalls behind with the organ's great damage. If they're stone-walled, make sure the 3rd or 4th production out of the castle is a petard. All that stuff is easy. The Feudal Age response that can be a bit tricky is a bunch of towers with fletching. The first thing I'll say is don't be afraid to camp the base with 2 organs spaced 1 apart to cover each other. Then, add a siege workshop in and push the towers. Now you can do this with both mangonels and rams. If you're really ahead or really behind, go for the rams and push the TC, denying that Castle Age click. But in all other scenarios, go mangonels. They scale much better versus Castle Age units. Well, look at that. We've worked our way through problem number 1, problem number 2, and arrived at problem number 3. The hardest problem. How do we beat a larger economy that now has access to Castle Age tools? It's a very complex answer, but it can be summed up in one word. Timing. We have a window of time where they cannot answer our army. We simply outmass them and outtech them. And in that window, we need to end the game. So, what Castle Age units stop us from making a ring of organs around their TC and watching them wither? Well, firstly, mangonels. The moment they field one of these, their army beats our army, because you cannot fight these with organs. I know I told you in the last section to open ram or mangonel, but that was only against someone in extended feudal. In most games, you'll open with a monastery to counter the inevitable mangonel. It's monk, then sanctity, then idle the castle for redemption, selling your wood. Once redemption clicks, you now have a true Exodia. No generic army can answer this composition. Not light cav mangonel, not crossbow mangonel, nothing. So use it to end the game. Do exactly what we did in feudal. Loop around the town center. Convert relevant buildings. Leave sentries behind. It's at this point that you can add siege to break the TC. Okay, what if they aren't going for army? What if they're going for defensive structures like guard towers and castles? The first step is to ignore the defensive structures and hit everywhere else. While you're doing that, mass mangonels in a siege workshop. Once massed, you do the tried and true siege tower mango monk push. Now, this type of push is hard. It takes hours of practice in an editor to get good at it, and I will teach you the intricacies at the end of the video. Your other option is to steal imp with the market, while continuing to probe for weak spots. Once you get to imp, getting siege engineers means you no longer need monks to counter the mangonels, and can play straight organ guns and trebuchets. Deciding whether to push in castle or steal imp is really complicated and situational, so do what feels right. It's funny, I'm talking about imp and haven't even told you when to make vills. Well, you make vills when you don't need something for your push. For example, your opponent just hit castle age, and you don't have the res for redemption. Do not make vills now. Sell your food and get redemption. On the other hand, if your push is dealing good damage and you don't need any tools on the front, that's when you make farms and buy vills. Okay, you now know how to deal with defensive structures like guard towers and castles. On to the final boss. Boy, do I hate monks. First, try and camp the monasteries. If they're smart, they'll build them under the TC, but at least try to delay them with your organs. Then rush a siege workshop and build rams. When the first ram comes out, we're sending it. 1 rep bill on the rams, 1 on the organs. Don't let him repair the TC. I want to be very clear. This is a frantic response if he opened feudal against you and didn't take a ton of damage getting to castle. If you dealt good damage, or you both fast castle, just turn it into a monk war. Portuguese are great for that. I hate monk wars and I'm not very good at them, so I won't give you any tips, but watch some of Survivalist streams and you'll figure it out. Now we're almost ready to cross problem number 3 off our list, but if you're gonna do these all-ins, you really should know some techs to help your pushes. I'll start easy and then get complicated. So, tech number 1, patrol stacking. I shared this publicly 6 months ago, and I'm a little sad that I haven't seen it in any tournaments. It's really simple to do and affects all melee units. How do we do this? Well, turning up the grid helps a lot. Simply click 1 tile away from the building, and then patrol on stand ground to the other side of the tile. Slight angle helps. This allows you to stack an infinite number of melee units and break in really fast. It's crucial to know for infantry all-ins. If you're not comfortable with it, just practice it in an editor. You'll be surprised how tight of a space you can get this tech to work in. Here's a pro tip. If you ever see like half your units patrolling and not attacking, just grab them and do another patrol. On to tech number 2, castle aggroing. When most folks, pros included, push a castle with rams and infantry, they push it incorrectly. They load up their infantry into the rams and right-click on the castle. When the defenders come to meet them, they ungarrison all their infantry and let the battle ensue. This leaves your infantry extremely vulnerable to castle fire. I prefer to instead have 1 bait ram that I leave behind to draw the castle's aggro. This way, when the battle's ensuing, all my infantry are not getting shot at by the castle. Now, the defender can start right-clicking on our infantry with the castle. And if we notice them doing this, we simply hop our infantry in and out of the ram, breaking the castle aggro and putting it back on the bait ram. Just remember to set your rams to stand ground before you push to turn off their fleeing behavior. Tech number 3, siege tower shadowing. Siege towers, and all units in the game, can block projectiles from buildings. The really special thing about siege towers is they take 1 damage while doing so, and are extremely tall, and thus cast a long shadow of protection. This shadow can allow us to do a lot of cool things. Unfortunately, siege towers are quite janky. They have no stances, and they have fleeing behavior like a villager. So every time they're hit by an arrow, they run in a random direction. This can stack for comedic effect. Now you can turn off this fleeing behavior by garrisoning and ungarrisoning any unit. Unfortunately, if this calm siege tower is ever in a group with another unit, it will regress and have its fleeing behavior turned on again. So when you attempt a siege tower mangonel push, Make sure the siege tower and mangonels are on separate control groups, and you never lasso select all of them. Another thing you need to know about this fragile push is how to stack siege. The easiest way is to patrol on stand ground into the castle with your siege tower in front shadowing. This all sounds impossible, but I promise to anyone who's 2K plus, with some practice in an editor, it is achievable. With some techs under your belt, I think we can finally cross off problem number 3. Let's wrap this video up. I started playing Age of Empires because of a player called Huang. He didn't use any control groups, didn't know how to defend, and generally wasn't great at the game. But extremely skilled professional players would dodge him, lose games to him, and generally dreaded playing him. It was obvious that Huang had made a very powerful strategy and learned how to execute it. The meta didn't change. Pro players said only Huang can do that, and didn't invest time to learn this strategy. So I'm saddened when I hear things like,
And Phosphor has a habit, as we've seen in other videos, of making strategies look incredibly strong when someone like myself or normal players cannot implement them.
because it's simply not true. Anyone who invests some time to learn the nuance of a fast castle can unlock this power. To the pro players out there, do you remember Cumans at launch? Well, I believe that the Bengalis, the Portuguese, the Burmese are that busted. You just need to learn how to fast castle. Anyway, have a good one, y'all. Red Faw's out. If you're watching this video on the day of release, there's a good chance I'm live right now. So click that link in the description.